Be me, woman who knows that every single rape, every war, every environmental disaster, every ounce of suffering in human history traces back to one source. Men built this nightmare, and we're all living in it, working as a dental hygienist, decent pay, quiet life. Spend my evenings reading theory about patriarchal structures, not the watered-down liberal feminism that asks nicely for equality. The real stuff that recognizes what half the population refuses to admit. That testosterone poisoning has turned humanity into a death cult. That violence, domination, and cruelty are fundamentally male traits. Women built communities, men built weapons. Women created life, men created capitalism. It's not even controversial. It's just biology plus sociology plus 5,000 years of evidence. Live with my girlfriend Rachel in a small apartment downtown. She works in tech. I clean teeth and listen to people's problems all day. Most of my patients are women. When I get male patients, I'm professional, but I see them for what they are. Beneficiaries of a system that props them up while crushing everyone else. They complain about their jobs, their lives, their minor inconveniences. Meanwhile, women are fighting just to walk alone at night, fighting to be believed, to be paid fairly, to exist without being objectified. One Tuesday, this guy comes in, maybe early 30s. His chart says Mark. Insurance is through his wife. He's polite, quiet, barely makes eye contact. I notice his hands are shaking slightly when he grips the armrests. You doing okay? I ask, more procedure than genuine concern. Yeah, just haven't been to the dentist in a while. I start the cleaning and he flinches at every instrument. Not pain flinching, something else. Fear flinching, like someone who's been conditioned to expect hurt. I ignore it mostly, do my job. While I'm working, he gets a text. His phone is face up on the tray next to him. I see the message preview. You better not be making excuses again. We have dinner at 7, and if you're late, like last time, I swear to God, Mark. He sees me see it, looks embarrassed. Sorry, he mumbles, though I'm not sure what for. I don't respond, just finish up. Probably henpecked, I think. Men always want sympathy for the consequences of their own failures. If his wife is frustrated with him, he probably earned it. At home that night, Rachel is in a mood. She's been stressed about work, some project that's behind schedule. I try to talk to her about my day, and she cuts me off. Can you not right now? I've had the worst day, and I don't need to hear about teeth. I back off, make dinner. She doesn't thank me, just eats while scrolling her phone. I remind myself that women carry so much weight in this world. We're allowed to be sharp sometimes, to take up space, to not perform gratitude. Men have been doing it for millennia. A few weeks later, I'm at the grocery store after work. I see Mark from the dental office. He's with a woman, presumably his wife. She's beautiful, well-dressed, has that pulled-together look that takes effort. I'm in the cereal aisle pretending to compare ingredients. They're one aisle over, but the store is quiet enough that I hear everything. No, not that one. Jesus Christ, Mark, I specifically told you the organic one. Sorry, I thought... You thought? You thought wrong? Like always. Why do I have to do everything myself? I can go back and... Forget it. You'll just screw that up too. I feel a flash of recognition. I've spoken to Rachel like that. But that's different. Women's anger is justified. It's accumulated rage from being dismissed and diminished. When we snap, it's because we've been pushed past our limits. Men created the conditions that make us sharp. Keep seeing more, though. At work, another patient, different guy. He's maybe 25, comes in looking exhausted. During the examination, I notice he's missing part of a tooth. What happened here? I ask. He hesitates. Accident, he finally says. Something about the way he says it. I probe gently, professionally. What kind of accident? Long pause. My girlfriend threw a glass at me during an argument. He says it quietly, like he's ashamed. I process this. Part of me wants to ask what he did to provoke that response, because that's usually how it works. Violence doesn't emerge from nowhere, but I don't ask. I just document the damage and refer him to the dentist for a crown. That night I mention it to Rachel. Had a patient today who said his girlfriend threw glass at him. She doesn't look up from her laptop. He probably deserved it. I laugh a little because, yeah, probably. But something sits weird in my chest. Work the next week, and there's gossip in the break room. One of the other hygienists, Jennifer, is talking about her husband. He actually tried to tell me he was touched out and didn't want to have sex. The other women laugh. What is that? Some new excuse? Right? I told him that's not how marriage works. You don't get to just opt out. More laughter. I don't join in, but I don't object either, because objecting would mean defending men, and men have been coercing women sexually since the beginning of time. One guy saying no doesn't erase that history, but I keep thinking about it, about consent, and how we talk about it. How when men pressure women, it's assault. How when women pressure men, it's what, exactly? My relationship with Rachel is deteriorating. She's become critical of everything I do. The way I load the dishwasher, the way I fold laundry, the way I breathe too loudly. She makes fun of me in front of our friends. She's so disorganized, I swear I'm like her mother. Everyone laughs. I laugh too, uncomfortably. When I try to bring up how her comments hurt me, she shuts it down. You're being too sensitive. I'm just joking. It doesn't feel like joking. Well, maybe you need thicker skin. Women don't have to coddle each other. That's patriarchal conditioning. Talking. I accept this because it makes sense theoretically. We've been trained to be soft and accommodating. Maybe being uncomfortable is part of unlearning that. Months pass. I see more men in my chair with stories that don't add up. Bruises they explain away. Broken teeth from accidents. One guy who flinches when I raise my hand to adjust the light. Another who apologizes constantly for everything, for existing, for taking up space. I recognize that behavior. I've seen it in abused women. But men can't be abused, not really. They have all the power structurally. Individual instances don't override systemic reality. Except I keep seeing the individual instances. Keep hearing stories that chip away at my certainty. Man whose wife controls all the money gives him an allowance. Man whose girlfriend threatens to hurt herself if he leaves. Man whose ex-wife made false allegations during the custody battle, which he tells me about in the chair with tears running down his face into his ears while I'm trying to work. They believed her automatically, he says. I haven't seen my daughters in 8 months. The court-appointed psychologist finally cleared me, but the damage is done. My kids think I'm a monster. I want to dismiss this. Want to say that false accusations are rare, that women have no reason to lie. But I'm literally looking at a man whose life has been destroyed, whose children have been weaponized against him, who is so broken he's crying during a dental cleaning. I finish the appointment and sit in the bathroom afterward, stare at myself in the mirror, remind myself of statistics. Men commit 90% of violent crimes. Men start wars. Men rape and murder. These facts don't change. But, there's a but forming in my mind, and I hate it. Rachel starts seeing someone else. I find out through a mutual friend before she tells me. When I confront her, she doesn't apologize. You've been emotionally absent for months. What did you expect? I've been here. I've been trying to talk to you. You've been trying to talk at me about your feelings. I need someone who's on my level intellectually. It feels like being slapped. Are you saying I'm stupid? I'm saying you're limited. And honestly, you're kind of boring lately. She moves out 2 weeks later, takes most of our shared things she didn't pay for, things that were mine before we met. When I ask about the coffee maker that was a gift from my mother, she says, "You're really going to nickel and dime me over a coffee maker? This is why we didn't work. You're petty." She takes it anyway. I call my friend Sarah, expecting comfort. Instead, she says, "Well, you did let yourself go a bit. When's the last time you went to the gym?" I wasn't aware maintaining a relationship required a gym membership, but I don't say that. I just feel hollow. At work, I pay more attention now. Really listen when patients talk. Mark comes back for a follow-up. I ask how he's doing, actually, want to know. "Getting divorced," he says. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It's better. I didn't realize how bad it was until I told my therapist some of the stuff that happened and saw her face." "What kind of stuff?" I shouldn't ask. It's not professional. But I do. He tells me. Tells me about being hit, about having things thrown at him, about being told he was worthless. Tells me about being forced into sex when he didn't want it. She said if I really loved her, I would want to. That there was something wrong with me. That I was probably gay. Tells me about being isolated from friends and family. She said they were toxic, that they didn't understand our relationship. So I cut them off. And then when I had no one, she'd remind me that no one else would want me anyway. Tells me about the control, the monitoring, the accusations. She went through my phone daily, read all my messages. If I talked to a woman, even a coworker, she'd lose it. Accuse me of cheating, sometimes for days. I listen, really listen, and I hear every tactic I've heard described in domestic violence literature, every pattern I've recognized in abusive men. Except this was done by a woman, to a man, and no one helped him. Because when he tried to tell people, they laughed, or asked what he did to deserve it, or told him to man up, or said he was lucky his wife was so passionate. I think about Rachel, about how she spoke to me, controlled me, diminished me, about how our friends watched and said nothing, about how I accepted it because I thought maybe I deserved it. Maybe I was being too sensitive. Maybe this was just what relationships were like. I think about how if Rachel had been a man doing those things to me, every woman I know would have told me to run. The shift happens slowly then, all at once. I'm reading an article about male suicide rates, 3 times higher than women. I've always known this statistic, always attributed it to toxic masculinity, to men's inability to express emotion, to patriarchy hurting men too. But now I'm reading accounts. Men who killed themselves after false accusations. Men who killed themselves after losing custody of their children. Men who killed themselves after years of abuse that no one believed. Men who killed themselves because they asked for help and were told to toughen up. I'm reading about male victims of domestic violence, how shelters turn them away, how police arrest them, even when they're the ones with injuries, how society mocks them, how their abusers face no consequences. Because women can't really hurt men, right? Because men are stronger, bigger, more powerful. Except strength isn't just physical, and power in a relationship isn't determined by who can throw a harder punch. I think about emotional abuse, manipulation, financial control, sexual coercion, isolation. All things women can do just as effectively as men. Maybe more effectively, because no one's looking for it. No one's trained to see women as perpetrators. I'm at a friend's house for dinner. Friend's sister is there with her boyfriend. She treats him like shit the entire night. Interrupts him, contradicts him, makes fun of him. He's so useless, I swear. Can't do anything right. He laughs along, but his eyes are dead. Everyone else laughs too. I don't. I watch. I see the dynamic. I see how comfortable everyone is with it, how normal it seems. How if the genders were reversed, someone would pull her aside and ask if she's okay. I start speaking up. Small things at first. When Jennifer at work talks about pressuring her husband into sex, I say, "That's not okay." She looks at me like I've grown a second head. What? Pressuring someone into sex? That's not okay. It's my husband. So? She laughs, confused. So it's different. Is it? The break room gets quiet. Another coworker jumps in. Are you seriously comparing that to rape? I'm saying consent matters regardless of gender. Oh my God, you sound like a men's rights activist. The conversation ends. I'm frozen out for the rest of the week. I can't unsee it now, can't unhear it. Women at the grocery store berating their husbands. Women at restaurants snapping at their boyfriends. Women in my social circle talking about their partners like they're children or pets or burdens. And everyone just accepts it, because women have been oppressed for so long that we're allowed to punch up. Except, are we punching up when we're hitting someone who loves us? Someone who's vulnerable to us? Someone who society won't protect? I think about all the times I've said, men are trash. All the times I've generalized an entire gender. All the times I've dismissed male suffering because of statistics. Statistics are about populations. But I've been treating individual men like they're responsible for everything every man has ever done. I've been treating them like they can't be victims, like they can't feel pain, like they don't deserve empathy. I think about my father, who worked himself to death trying to provide for us, who never complained, never asked for help, who had a heart attack at 53. I blamed capitalism, blamed the patriarchy for creating impossible standards of masculinity, but I never once asked if he was okay. Never once thought about him as a person who might be suffering. He was just dad, just a man, just part of the problem. I'm sitting in my apartment, alone. It's been 6 months since Rachel left. I'm scrolling through social media, and I see a post. Men will literally bottle up their emotions and die at 60 instead of going to therapy. Thousands of likes. The comments are all mocking. Male tears lol. They deserve it for creating the patriarchy. Maybe if they weren't so fragile. I start typing a response. Maybe they bottle up their emotions because everyone mocks them when they express feelings. Maybe they die young because no one takes their pain seriously. Maybe we're part of the problem. I hover over the post button, delete it instead, because I know what happens when you defend men. I've seen it. You become a traitor, a pick-me, a handmaiden to the patriarchy. But I can't keep pretending I don't see what I see. Can't keep pretending that cruelty is gendered, that women are incapable of inflicting harm, that men deserve whatever happens to them. I'm back at work. Mark comes in for another appointment. He looks better, healthier. How are you? I ask. Good. Really good, actually. I'm in a new relationship. She's kind. He says it like kindness is remarkable, like he didn't expect it, like he'd accepted that cruelty was just what love looked like. And I realized that's what I'd done too. Accepted Rachel's treatment because I thought that's what I deserved. Thought that women couldn't really abuse each other because we were all on the same team. But there are no teams, just people. Some cruel, some kind. Some who hurt others, and some who heal. And none of it breaks down cleanly along gender lines. I think about all the theory I've read, all the frameworks I've built my worldview around. They're not wrong about history, not wrong about systemic oppression, not wrong about patriarchy, but they're incomplete. They've made me blind to individual suffering, made me complicit in cruelty because it came from women instead of men, made me think that the gender of the abuser mattered more than the fact of the abuse. The realization doesn't come as a sudden epiphany. It comes as a slow, painful erosion of certainty. Every day, another example. Every day, another story. Every day, another man whose pain I would have dismissed a year ago, whose pain I can't dismiss anymore. I'm lying in bed one night, thinking about everything I've witnessed, everything I've experienced, the men in my chair with broken teeth and broken spirits, the male patient who cried about losing his children, Mark's shaking hands, and his gratitude for basic kindness, my own relationship with Rachel and how I accepted mistreatment because I thought women couldn't really abuse each other, Jennifer pressuring her husband, my friend's sister degrading her boyfriend, the social media posts mocking male suicide, the complete lack of resources for male victims. The assumption that men are always perpetrators, never victims. The reality that I've been part of this, that I've contributed to a culture that denies half the population their humanity, that I've been so focused on collective guilt that I've ignored individual suffering, and finally, painfully, the truth settles into my bones. Women are not inherently superior. Women are not incapable of cruelty. Women can abuse, manipulate, harm, destroy. Women can be every bit as vicious as men. Maybe more so because we've convinced ourselves we can't be. Because there's no accountability, no scrutiny, no cultural narrative that allows for female perpetration. I've spent years believing that all evil traces back to men, that women are victims, always and only, that our cruelty is always justified, always reactive, always the fault of patriarchy. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. And the cost of that wrongness has been real people's real suffering. Suffering I ignored, dismissed, excused. Because it didn't fit my framework. Because acknowledging it would mean admitting that my ideology was incomplete. That women are just as human as men. Which means just as capable of the full range of human behavior, including the worst of it,